Welcome to the part of the internet where people file formal complaints against gravity, sunlight, and their own life choices, and do so with the kind of unshakable confidence usually reserved for Nobel laureates and four-star generals. These are not misunderstandings. These are not moments of confusion later corrected by reflection. These are complaints submitted, delivered, and defended by people who looked reality directly in the face and said, "No, I disagree. Facing something, this is going to test you." Number 1. A man walks into a pizza place, orders a large pepperoni, eats 6 of the 8 slices, and then asks to speak to a manager because the pizza was, quote, too big. He did not want a refund. He did not want a smaller pizza. He wanted an apology from the pizza for existing at the size he ordered it to exist at. The manager, a 42-year-old woman who has seen things, blinked slowly and said she was sorry for the inconvenience, which is honestly the most professional response to a complaint that the food was exactly what was requested and also mostly eaten. Number 2. A hotel guest called the front desk at 2 in the morning to complain that the ice machine on her floor was making ice. She specified in her complaint that the sound of the ice machine was disruptive. The sound of it doing the one thing ice machines do, in the place ice machines are kept, at the temperature ice machines require to function. The hotel offered to move her to a different floor. She declined because the other floors were, in her words, too far from the elevator. She submitted a 1-star review. The review is still live. It says the hotel has a noise problem. Number 3. A woman complained to a grocery store that the bananas were yellow. Not that they were unripe. Not that they were overripe. Yellow. She felt, with complete sincerity, that the produce team should have been monitoring the color situation more proactively. The produce team, for the record, had been monitoring the color situation. That is why the bananas were yellow. That is the goal. She asked if they had green ones. They did. She said those were too green. Bananas have never won this argument. Number 4. A passenger on a commercial flight filed a complaint with the airline because the plane had been in the air. He felt there was too much flying involved in the flight. He acknowledged that he was going somewhere far away. He simply felt that the aircraft should have found a way to cover the distance more quietly, and perhaps with fewer of what he called the up and down feelings. Those feelings are called physics. He gave the airline 2 stars. The sky somehow remains unaware of the review. Number 5. A man called a streaming service to complain that a show he had not yet watched might not be as good as he hoped it was going to be. He had watched the thumbnail. He had watched the trailer. He had developed expectations. He wanted someone to guarantee his emotional satisfaction before he invested 38 minutes. When the representative explained that they could not guarantee the subjective experience of watching television, he asked to escalate the call. It escalated. No one at any level of that escalation could guarantee his feelings. He canceled his subscription and started a free trial on a different platform, presumably to not watch things there as well. Number 6. And somehow we're still warming up. A woman complained to a bookstore that the books were in alphabetical order. Not that her specific book was in the wrong section. Not that she could not find what she was looking for. She felt that alphabetical order was, quote, too systematic, and that a more intuitive arrangement would have served her better. When the employee asked what arrangement she had in mind, she said she was not sure, but that it should be easier to find things. Alphabetical order. Rejected for being too organized. By someone who wanted things to be easier to find. Number 7. A couple complained to a national park that the forest was too forested. They had driven 4 hours to see the trees. Upon arriving and encountering a significant quantity of trees, they felt the experience was, quote, overwhelming, and that the park should have done more to prepare visitors for the number of trees they would be encountering. The park ranger who received this complaint had been a park ranger for 19 years. She looked at the trees. She looked at the couple. She handed them a brochure. The brochure was about trees. Number 8. A man filed a complaint with a restaurant because his meal had been prepared by a chef. He had expected it to be prepared by someone else, though he could not specify who. He felt, with conviction, that the chef's personal involvement in the cooking process had influenced the flavor in a way he could not fully articulate, but definitely did not appreciate. The chef had been cooking for 23 years. She received this feedback with the grace of someone who has been told by strangers that their entire career is the problem and simply decided to continue having a career. Number 9. A woman called a florist to complain that her flowers had died. This would be reasonable except the flowers had died 11 months after she purchased them. 11 months. She felt this represented a quality issue. The florist, who sells cut flowers, which are by definition no longer connected to their life source, explained gently that flowers have a lifespan. The woman said she was aware of that, but had not expected it to apply to hers. She wanted a replacement. The florist offered a discount on a new bouquet. The woman said she should not have to buy new flowers as a consequence of the old flowers dying. Be honest. Does that sentence make sense to you either? Number 10. A man complained to a gym that the other members were also using the gym. He had paid for a membership. He felt this entitled him to a certain level of personal space that was incompatible with other paying members existing in the same building. He specifically took issue with the fact that, during peak hours, the equipment he wanted was sometimes in use by other people who also paid for memberships specifically to use that equipment. He asked if there was a way to reduce the number of members there was. It was called a private gym. It cost more. He did not want to pay more. He wanted fewer people for the same price. He is still a member. He still complains. Quarterly. Number 11. A passenger complained to a cruise line that the ocean was too large. Not that the ship was uncomfortable. Not that the service was lacking. She looked out from the deck at the open sea and filed a formal complaint that there was too much water and not enough land visible, and that this was making her feel as though she was far from land. She was far from land. That is where oceans are. The cruise line responded with sympathy and reminded her that the ship was, at all times, moving toward a destination. She said that was not the same as land being visible right now. It is not the same. She was correct. She was also on a boat in the middle of the ocean, and this had been, at some point, a choice. Number 12. This next one defies logic in a direction I did not anticipate. A man complained to a public library that the books were available to everyone. He had a library card. He used the library regularly. He simply felt that certain books he enjoyed should be accessible to him at a higher priority than to strangers who also wanted them. When told the library operated on a first-come, first-served basis with a hold system for popular titles, he asked if there was a tier above that. There is not. Public libraries are, by design and by name, public. He submitted a complaint in writing to the library, using paper from his home. He did not thank the library for teaching him to write. Number 13. A woman complained to a supermarket that the self-checkout machine required her to do things herself. She had chosen the self-checkout line specifically. She had walked past 3 staffed registers to do so. Once at the self-checkout machine, she felt that the number of steps involved was excessive, and that someone should be present to help her use the self-checkout machine so that the process would go faster. An employee came over to help. She then complained that this had defeated the purpose of self-checkout. The employee nodded. The employee's soul quietly left their body. The employee's body continued working the self-checkout area for 4 more hours. Number 14. A man filed a formal written complaint against the weather, not with a local news station, not with a meteorologist, with his municipality. He wanted the city to take responsibility for the rain and issue a statement acknowledging that the rain had been inconvenient. The city's response time on formal complaints is approximately 4 to 6 weeks. The rain had resolved itself by then. He followed up to say the city's response had been too slow. The city responded that weather matters fall outside their jurisdiction. He disputed this. He is still disputing it. Winter is coming and he has a lot of feelings. Number 15. A woman complained to an airline that the flight had landed on time. She had arranged for her ride to pick her up 30 minutes after the scheduled arrival, accounting for what she assumed would be a delay. When the flight arrived as scheduled, her ride was not there. She complained to the airline that the punctuality had caused an inconvenience. She wanted a voucher. She received a response acknowledging her feedback. The response did not include a voucher. It also did not include an apology for the flight functioning correctly. She has since told this story many times as an example of poor customer service. Would you like to guess how her listeners respond? Number 16. A man complained to a coffee shop that the coffee was hot. He had ordered a hot coffee. It was described as hot coffee on the menu. The word hot appeared before the word coffee on the receipt. He touched the cup, determined it was hot, and asked to speak to someone about the temperature. He did not want iced coffee. He wanted hot coffee that did not feel warm to the touch. He was shown the cold brew menu. He declined. He was offered a sleeve for the cup. He felt the sleeve was a band-aid solution to what he described as a systemic temperature problem. The coffee cooled down in 12 minutes. He had already left. Number 17. A woman submitted a complaint to a zoo because the animals were not doing anything interesting when she arrived. The lions were resting. The giraffes were standing. The penguins were being penguins in the way penguins are when they are not actively performing for an audience. She felt the zoo owed her a livelier experience and wanted to know if there was a schedule for when the animals would be more entertaining. There is no such schedule. The animals are not aware that they are supposed to be entertaining. They are just animals, living in a zoo, existing at whatever speed animals exist at on a Tuesday afternoon. She gave the zoo 2 stars. 1 star was apparently for the gift shop, which she also found disappointing, presumably because the stuffed animals were also not doing anything. Number 18. It somehow gets worse from here, and I want you to remember that. A man called a hardware store to complain that the tool he had purchased did not work correctly. When asked what had happened, he explained that he had used the tool for a purpose other than its stated purpose, in conditions outside its rated specifications, without reading the instructions, and then stored it incorrectly. He wanted a refund. The employee asked whether he had the receipt. He did not have the receipt. He had, he said, a strong sense that the receipt had existed at some point. The store offered him store credit toward a new tool, which he could use in whatever way he felt was appropriate. He was offended by the implied criticism. Number 19. A woman complained to a movie theater that the film had a plot. She had wanted to watch something relaxing and had not anticipated that the story would develop complications, create emotional stakes, or require sustained attention. She left 40 minutes in. She asked for a refund on the basis that the movie had been more of a movie than she had expected. The theater offered her a free pass to a future film. She wanted to know if there was a way to preview in advance whether the future film would also have a plot. There is a way. It is called a trailer. The theaters have them. She did not mention the trailers. The trailers mention the plots. Number 20. A man complained to a restaurant that the dish he had ordered was exactly what the menu described. He had read the description. He had ordered the dish. The dish arrived. It matched the description perfectly. He found this to be the problem. He had assumed that the description was a loose suggestion, and that the kitchen would take liberties in a direction he would prefer without his having to specify what that direction was. When asked what he would have liked differently, he said he would have preferred it to be better. Better is available on the menu, but it requires ordering something you actually want. He did not appreciate this being explained to him. Number 21. A woman complained to a public park that the bench she wanted to sit on was occupied by geese. She wanted the park to remove the geese from the bench so she could use it. The park does not manage goose behavior. The geese are not employees. The geese are not subject to the park's seating policies. The geese, for their part, were simply on a bench, which geese sometimes do. When advised that the geese would likely move on their own if she waited a moment, she said she should not have to wait for geese. The geese left 12 seconds later. She sat down. She did not acknowledge this. She had a lovely afternoon. The geese reconvened 4 benches down and have never once mentioned it. Number 22. And now we enter the part of the countdown where the complaints stop being mildly irrational and start suggesting a fundamentally different understanding of how existence works. A man complained to his internet provider that the internet had been slow during a power outage. He acknowledged that his power was out. He confirmed that his router was not on. He understood, conceptually, that these 2 facts were related. He still felt the provider owed him a service credit for the hours during which he had not had internet access, which were the same hours during which the device connecting him to the internet had been without power, which was a separate utility managed by a completely different company. The credit was denied. He appealed. He lost the appeal. He is saving his energy for a 3rd attempt. Number 23. A woman complained to an different airline, same genre of reasoning, that her bag had been lost. Investigation revealed that she had collected her bag at baggage claim, taken it home, left it at home, and returned to the airport for a connecting flight without it. The bag had not been lost by the airline. The bag was exactly where she had put it. She wanted the airline to retrieve her bag from her home and deliver it to the connecting city. The airline does not retrieve items from private residences. She escalated. She described this escalation later on social media as an example of airline incompetence. The bag remained at home. It was fine. The bag was completely fine. Number 24. A man complained to a city council meeting, in person, on record, that the moon had been too bright the previous evening and had disrupted his sleep. He did not want a solution. He wanted the council to acknowledge the moon. The council acknowledged that they had received his comments. He asked for a formal statement. The council does not issue formal statements about the moon. He said this was exactly the kind of unresponsiveness that was destroying public trust in local government. The council chairperson asked if there were any other items. There were other items. The moon remains at its current brightness. It has received no correspondence from the council. Number 25. A woman filed a written complaint with a school district because her child had been assigned homework. Not excessive homework. Not age, inappropriate homework. An amount described by 3 separate educators as standard and expected for the grade level. She felt that school was for school and that home was for home, and that the two should not overlap. When the school explained that practice and reinforcement at home were part of the learning process, she asked if the school would be willing to extend the school day to accommodate this. The school said that would require additional funding, staffing, and district approval. She filed a separate complaint about the length of the school day. She did not specify which direction she wanted it to go. The district is still unclear on what she wanted. She is also unclear on what she wanted. She feels very strongly about it. Number 26. A man complained to his doctor that he felt unwell after not sleeping, not exercising, not drinking water, and eating exclusively from a category of food products that his doctor had specifically asked him, at 3 consecutive appointments, to reduce. He wanted the doctor to provide a solution that did not require changing any of the behaviors that were causing his symptoms. When the doctor suggested that the behaviors and the symptoms might be connected, he said he had done his own research. The research he had done suggested that his symptoms might be caused by something else, something external, something the doctor was not aware of. He wanted a referral. He got a referral. He complained to the specialist that the appointment was too early in the morning. Number 27. And here we are. The final complaint. The summit of this mountain of confident wrongness. A woman called a customer service line, representing a utility company, to complain that the sun had set. She was aware that sunset was a natural phenomenon. She was aware that it occurred daily. She was aware that no utility company controls the sun. She called anyway. She wanted to know who to contact about the fact that it was getting dark earlier than she preferred now that autumn had begun. She asked if there was a complaints department for seasonal changes. There is not a complaints department for seasonal changes. The representative who took this call has worked in customer service for 11 years and has described this as the moment she understood everything about everything. She noted the complaint. She closed the ticket. The Earth continued its axial tilt with absolutely no knowledge of the call and no intention of adjusting. There are 27 complaints behind us now. And if there is one thing this journey confirms, it is that confidence and correctness have never been required to appear together. People will complain about alphabetical order. They will complain about hot coffee being warm and free books being available and flights being on time and the ocean being wet and the moon having the audacity to reflect light. And they will do all of it with the serene certainty of someone who has never once been inconvenienced by their own reasoning. What is remarkable is not that these complaints exist. What is remarkable is how completely the complainants believe in them. There is a kind of purity in that. A terrible, exhausting, slightly hilarious purity. So here is the only question that matters now that you have seen all 27. Which one broke you? Which one made you stare quietly at the wall and recalculate your faith in collective human judgment? Leave it in the comments, because that conversation is going to be extraordinary, and honestly this list barely scratched the surface of what is out there. If this video rearranged something in your brain, the like button is right there, and it has never once complained about being pressed. Subscribe if you want to continue being the rational one in the room. We will keep the light on. Unlike some people, we have no complaints about the sun.